did you want to introduce yourself for Sharon and then I'll share that video?
Yeah. Bonjour, Ninindwe Maganida, Nagamomangan and Dishnakaz, Wabishation Dodam, Jibwe Kwe and down, Dishnizo Medeo. Newa Odana in Dunchba. That's the first time I got to say that. I lived in St. Paul for many years, and but I recently moved to Center City, and but I'm from Bois Forte, and let me see. So I thought we'd start tonight with just there's a short video that was made of the Salt River Water Walk, and it really tells a very good story, and it's very well done. To give you an idea of what exactly the water walks are about. And so there'll be some of the history in this film, but just to say that, it was back in 2003 when Josephine Mandamin began the water walks, and some years before that, in 1998, the chief of the lodge that we went to, Three Fires Lodge, Budwaywood, said to us, what will you do for the water? And at that time, we were trying to save a spring here in Minneapolis, Camp Coldwater Spring. And there used to be many springs here, but they've all been dried up because of construction progress, I guess. And so this was the last spring in Minneapolis. And if something were to happen to the water supply in Minneapolis, this would be the only place where people could get water. And so it was also a place where the Dakota people said they came into one of their places of Genesis, the place they came into the world. And so we began working on that, and that's when, it was said to us, what will you do for the water? And so Josephine began the first water walk, 2003. She walked around Lake Superior, and I was able to join her for a couple of days. And, it was just so beautiful. It was, and it was very easy. They told you how far up the road to go and sit and wait for that water walker to get up to you. And then once they got there, you got out and took the water and walked a mile up the road. Then you handed it off, and then they told you where to go again. So in between your walking, there was just a lot of time to sit and visit and look at all the beauty that was around us. And we were on the east shore of Lake Superior, and north of Sault Ste. Marie, and there's a provincial park there, and so it's a beautiful, beautiful place, and that's where the pictographs are of that water panther and that serpent. So very beautiful. And then people would tell you where to go that night, where there would be lodging and where to go for dinner. And so it was just really, it just seemed so easy and so beautiful. So we'll go ahead and take a look at, so that was 2003. The Salt River Water Walk was, I believe, 2 years ago. So just at the beginning of COVID. So we'll take a look at this, and then we'll talk a little bit again when we come back. Well, that was the extended version of that video. So that was, but that was great because you got to hear Nathan Berglund and Nicole Christian talk about their experiences. And so, every time we have youth with us, and some of these youth youth change, but there's always young people with us. And so many times they do on the Mississippi River, they drove 2 days to get to us in Mississippi, to walk 2 days, and then drove 2 days home. And the same thing with the Salt River and the Ohio River and the Missouri River as well. And so sometimes we're behind, slower, going at a slower pace than I thought we would. But when the kids come, they'll run with the water and being very careful not to spill any. And but they always kind of get us caught up back on track. So I love it when they come, and I hate it when they leave. But anyhow, so that's basically a look at one walk. And of course, we walked many rivers in Minnesota. The St. Louis River, way back in 2013, 14, 15, 2015, I think, when they're first talking about sulfide mining. Right away, I said we need to walk the St. Louis River, and so we did. And but we walked the Kettle River and Minnesota River. The Minnesota River, there are 10,000 tons of fertilizer that are dumped into the Minnesota River every single year in the spring. And so that river is so polluted, nitrites and phosphorus, and nobody even counts, there's no, Minnesota, we have no standard for how much phosphorus you can have in the water, how much nitrites. And people south of us, once the Minnesota hits the Mississippi, then the Mississippi becomes polluted. It's pretty good up until that point. And but people south of the Twin Cities in Hastings and Red Wing, if they have their own wells, they can't really give that water to their babies because their babies could get that blue baby syndrome. There's not enough oxygen in the water. So there are so many rivers, and every river is different, and every walk is different, and yet they have the same elements. Some things do not change. We start every day with everybody offering their sema, saying something. We sing, and then we walk. And we keep going all day until the end of the day, and we make that circle on the ground, and we ask permission. We ask permission to rest. And Josephine used to say, we're asking permission to rest, but we're also telling that, tobacco, wait right here. We'll be back. And she said, and it also means don't get into any mischief, we'll be back. And so we do that every day until we start at the source of the river, or we start at a certain point on a lake, and we walk all the way around it, and we keep going every day until we finish. So it's a really beautiful thing, and I just feel so blessed to be born an Ojibwe woman, to be from Bois Forte, and and our little reservation. I talk about it all the time to people about how we take care of the wild rice, and our rice is different than on all the other lakes. And that's because it's been taken care of so well. And so I think that's something really to be proud of. And, and if our reservation could do that, everyone else could do that too. So anyhow, let's open it up for some questions, and don't want to just talk. I see my cousin Doris is on here, and she always says, oh, we're going to be here a long time. So we're not going to be here a long time because I have someplace else to go this evening. But if you guys have questions, you can type them in the chat, or take your microphone, open your unmute yourself.
Hi, bonjour. Nakaz. I'll do my introduction. Bonjour, Anin. Jaskubne si Indigenous cause, Niga Biwi Indigenous cause, Named Dudem, Nien Sabikune Zagi Igan. Hello, my name is David Morrison Jr. So I just wanted to ask you, is there a is it ideally to place your tobacco in the water, or I know I sometimes I'll kind of just drop it down, like tossing it. Is there do they recognize like if you're just like tossing it or placing it?
I think and sometimes when I talk about Asema, Jane would say to me, tell them everything, like, and she said, if you have a sema and you're going to, find a place on the ground that's clean and put your sema down and put it down, carefully. Same thing, if you're putting it in the water, put your hand in the water and let the water take your sema. She said, because otherwise it's like, if you bought a gift for your mother, like you wouldn't go throw it at her, throw the gift at her, right? Like you would place it in her hands, lovingly.
Right.
And on the other hand, if I'm driving down the road and and I see a magazine, many times I'll take my tobacco and roll the window down a little bit and let that tobacco out the window. And I think that's perfectly, can't stop every time, right? So just let it go out the window. And so, but I think, I really like that story that Jane said, give that gift lovingly.
Oh, me which.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, cousin.
Yeah.
That's another one I was asking too is I noticed sometimes it's kind of hit or miss with our monome, and I like to try to think of sometimes, how we take care of our lake, if we're not taking care of it, maybe the creators kind of well, you guys only get this amount of rice this year. So just wondering what your thoughts are on like this past, wasn't really too good of a season, but I also think that the weather had a lot to do with it too. So it was such a drought of a year, and it was hot as heck and no rain. So I think that kind of played a part on our monome harvest this year.
Yeah, I think that's it's like anything. Nature plays a big part, right? Whether it's too much water, not enough, storms, wind comes up, all those things. I do think that, like throughout the year, people can offer their sema, down at the lake, and ask for a good harvest. There are other things, like you say, that, we talk a lot about sovereignty, right? As tribal people, we talk about sovereignty and what does that mean? And, to me, what it means is like having, like we can't have sovereignty as a people unless we have sovereignty as individuals. And that, to me, that means that I have the agency to make relationships with the land, with the trees, with the water, with my goats, with my chickens, with my apple trees. If I take care of them, they take care of me. And so I feed my chickens. The other night it was so freezing cold out, and and I got home from work. I had to go make sure the goats and the chickens had water, get some more alfalfa for the goats. And it was so cold by the time I got done, that my fingertips, even though I had gloves on, were just like, when you have a lock gate, the first rule is on a farm is if it's locked when you have to unlock it, then you have to lock it when you leave, right? So cold, but that's what we do, right? We take care of them before, like, we go in the house and have something to drink, have something of our own food. Is we take care of those animals. We have agency to make those relationships, and in turn, my chickens give me eggs. My apple trees give me apples. The goats don't really give me much except fertilizer. But last year and Doris and Pete came and showed us how to tap the maple trees, and it's probably those first time those trees have ever been tapped, and some of them are really old. And so we did that, and we're going to do it again. It's hard work, but we loved it. So sovereignty, I think, begins with us as individuals, and we have the agency to make those relationships. So, I'm so jealous of you all because you get to live, near that, that lake that gives us so much over the years, and even if there's a bad year, think about all of the years that that lake has provided wild rice, like incredible, really. Yeah. Any other questions?
Go ahead for that.
Yeah, me glitch. I love you.
Oh, I was just going to say, you're such a good facilitator, Sharon. I don't even have to ask. Hey, are there other questions? You're doing it. I did have a question, though. How do you guys, one, like, how would somebody get involved with the organization? Or, like, if they're like, hey, wow, Sharon's going on these awesome water walks, how would they, like, figure out about it? And second question, how do you guys, like, know which rivers you guys are going to walk for?
Mm-hmm. So we have a website. It's Nibi Walk, NIBIWALK.org. And if you sign up for the newsletter there, we have a volunteer, Emily, who will put you on an email list for the newsletter. We actually have a newsletter that goes out probably once a quarter. And then you just communicate, like if you're thinking about joining a walk. So some of the walks are walks that I say I'm going to do for a particular reason, like St. Louis. When we walked the St. Louis River, it was because of the sulfide mining, and this was years ago, right? But we wanted to get out in front of that, and so we did. And the Salt River, there was a woman from the University of Arizona. They wanted us to walk the Salt River, and that took like 5 years to actually make that happen. They had to raise some money, and we had to find a time to do that. The Missouri River was, Faith Spotted Eagle, this Dakota woman. We met at a political kind of rally in St. Paul, and she said, I want you to come walk a portion of this Missouri River through Standing Rock. And I said, well, we don't really walk a part of a river. We start at the headwaters and walk to the mouth. And I said, where is the headwaters? She said, I don't know, it's over in Montana. I think it starts at a place called Three Forks. And so, it took us a year to plan that and to raise some money for it. But then we did. And and in the meantime, Standing Rock happened, and so most of all the water walkers that walked with me were at Standing Rock at some point. Some of us were there a couple times. So when we actually walked through Standing Rock, it was, it was really emotional for us to see how it was when, the people were camped there, and then to see it just return to prairie, with cows grazing, but we all had an emotional connection to that river. So it all depends. Somebody might ask me to, or it might be like Minnesota Humanities Center asked me to walk the Red River and the Kettle. Is it the Red River and the Kettle, I think. And so we did that, and they helped coordinate that, and they also helped fund it.
I know that you have to get going soon. I'll ask this one last question and then we can head off. But the question was asked in the chat. It says, a question that I had was, how do you differentiate what knowledge to share and what not to? So I guess it's more of how do you ensure that the information you share won't be glorified, mystified, or appropriated? I think all knowledge should be shared, and at the same time, there's steps to learning the information, and it may not be fully appreciated if all the information is told right away.
Yeah. So, so what we share, like on the water walks, is basically, simple tobacco offering and songs that we made, and it's very, very simple teaching that people can see anywhere, basically. In the Medewan Lodge, we have our own water songs, and and those are only sung in the lodge or at a Medewan ceremony. So those things, there's only one song that's from the lodge that we sing at the end, and we have to, and when we make that bundle and put the water in. Otherwise, all the other songs are songs that I made, or the Nibi song my sister made. So we try to really protect the information. Of course, many times there are Medewan women on the walk, and that Salt River there was, there's at least one other Medewan woman, and on most of the walks there are Medewan with me, and there are also times where I've asked people to leave, and everybody has to work in community, and some people are not able to do that, and so if it gets disruptive, or I don't have any problem with asking people to leave, and to try to do that in a circle and in a very good way. But it doesn't happen often, but it has happened. So we try to be protective of, and we talk about that a lot, like in between, whether you're in the van or in the evening, these things will come up. We talk a lot about social justice. We talk a lot about appropriation. And so people really understand that, like the non-native people that are with us, this is like, you are not in charge here. We don't even have to say that, they know that. Or they wouldn't have been invited in the first place. So now next year, my plan is to walk the Mississippi River again from the southern portion of the river, past New Orleans, Fort Jackson, all the way to Lake Itasca. And the goal of that walk is that I'm going to take some of these young people, Nathan, Jennifer, Nalia, Raina, some of these young women, some of Barb's grandkids who walked with me, to really teach them about the walk. I'm 70. I plan on being around for a while yet, but I want to make sure that that on this walk, it'll be for those young people. And maybe they won't be able to walk the whole way, but to have them at least come in small groups for 2 weeks at a time. And the adults that will be there will be mostly to support them. But then I will teach them as much as I know, Medewan or not, about the walks, and they will have journals. They'll be able to write things down. I will not teach them Medewan songs, but I will teach them, like who are those grandmothers who take care of the water, who sit in that sparkling blue, brilliant lake above the sky realm. Who are they? And, and some other things like that. But they'll know how to do the whole thing from beginning to end. And people can go to the website and there are like other videos. There's also like a lot of writings there. I know people don't like to read very much anymore, but there are, sort of our philosophy and again, walking, it's a pretty easy thing. And even people who, have, some physical difficulty, they can walk a very short period. But so like, if you can't walk with me, then every day when you have that first glass of water, say miigwech.